Good evening. I'd like to wish everyone a happy new year on behalf of Kings Local Schools Board of Education and the district. And I'd like to call this year's organizational meeting to order. First, could you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Next we have, is this the oath of office? Oh, how am I completely forgot about that, Mrs. Phillips. So next would be the oath of office for myself and Miss Peggy Phillips. After you, ma'am.
You can stand and raise your right hand. And if you agree to the following statement, please follow with I do. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as members of the Board of Education of the Kings Local School District, Warren County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified? Great. Mr. Belfrom, right hand. And if you agree with the following statement, follow with I do. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as members of the Board of Education of the Kings Local School District, Warren County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mrs. Phillips.
Thank you.
With that, Mr. Morrow, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Phillips,
Here.
Ms. Groff, Ms. Cowan,
Here.
Mr. Skrull,
Here.
Mr. Belfrom.
Here. And may I have a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
I will make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Morrow?
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom.
Yes. All right, next on the agenda is the public budget hearing. I will turn it over to Mr. Morrow.
Thank you. So annually, treasurers in local school districts and all public school districts prepare a tax budget that is to be presented to the Budget Commission, which is made up of the county auditor, county prosecutor, and county treasurer. And the basic kind of gist and reason for doing the tax budget is the Board of Education formally asking the County Budget Commission to levy taxes on behalf of the school district. So you can see I put some notes. The tax budget itself is a pretty lengthy document, and I've kind of tried to summarize that by each levy that is currently outstanding, which is our general operations, bond retirement fund paying for old projects, and then also our capital project permanent improvement fund, which funds nearly all kind of long-term assets of the district. So if the board has any specific questions about any of those levies, I'm more than happy to go into more detail. But you can see I've outlined on each one the reasoning why the Board of Education would elect to levy all taxes available.
Will this information be available online, Mr. Morrow?
Correct. Yes. So this was sent to the Board of Education last week for your review prior to the meeting. And this is available through board docs and will be posted out elsewhere.
Anyone have any questions on it? I thought it was pretty straightforward. We discussed all of this stuff at length, so questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Morrow. Next on the agenda are the election of officers for this year, 2024. We have any nominations here for president?
I'd like to nominate Stacy Belford.
Any other nominations? I'm joking. It's so awkward. I don't know. Do you need a motion and a?
No, if you're the only person that's been nominated, then you'll be board president.
All right.
Congratulations, Mr. Belfer.
Thank you. Would you like me to do the other before you do both oaths or?
Sure.
All right,
We can do one oath.
shoot. We have a nomination for the vice president.
I would like to nominate Peggy Phillips.
Congratulations, Mrs. Phillips. All right, with that, Mr. Morrow, could you lead us through the oaths, please, sir?
Yes, and raise your right hand and follow by I do. If you agree with the statement, do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge your duties as members of the Board of Education of the Kings Local School District, Warren County, Ohio, to the best of your ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during your continuance in said office and until your successor is elected and qualified?
I do.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we need to set the day of month, time, and place for the 2024 work session and regular board meetings. We have the schedule mentioned there. Were there any questions or concerns regarding the schedule for this year? No. Okay. Questions from the administration or concerns? All right, Mr. Morrow, could you call the roll, please, sir?
I think I have a motion.
Oh, may I have a motion to approve the board meeting schedule for 2024? President's off to a great start.
I'll make that motion.
I will second the motion. Mr. Morrow, could you call the roll, please?
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom,
Yes.
Mr. Skirl,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan.
Yes.
Next on the agenda are the items for the treasurer. Mr. Morrow, I'll hand it back to you, sir.
Thank you. First up is the tax advance resolution. We do this every year, and it is allowing me to request advances of funds paid to the county auditor. So as people pay their property tax bills, he can send us money to fund our operations. And this resolution is actually pretty important to Kings because we're so locally funded that as he starts receiving the money, we need that passed down to us to pay payroll, pay bills. So this is just kind of a procedural item and something the board approves every year. Item 2 is the adoption of the tax budget that was discussed above, and the public had the opportunity to speak on, and that's requesting that the county auditor collect all of the outstanding levies to fund our operations, to fund our current facility payments, and also fund our capital projects. Number 3, Turk representative. So with all the municipalities that Kings touches and is a part of, many of those municipalities have tax abatement agreements where companies either aren't paying as much in property taxes as they would otherwise, or their property taxes are being used to fund infrastructure projects. So this is setting myself as the board's representative for these meetings and the review of these abatements to make sure our municipalities are holding up their share of the bargain.
Under that one, I'd just like to say that I appreciate your due diligence with that and the ones that you found and took care of making sure that Kings Local School District gets their fair share.
I appreciate that. Thank you. It's a lot of time and effort, and we have great municipal partners that very receptive if we do find anything to fix it. Number 4, payment of bills and accounting transactions. This is basically allowing us to do our day-to-day work as far as paying bills, paying payroll, move any funds that need moved throughout the year. And number 5 is making myself the public records custodian and representative for the Board of Education, and also fulfilling the training requirements. Whenever board members are elected, they're required to do public records training, or they can ask somebody else like myself to do it on their behalf. So I'll take care of that for the Board of Education.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Monk? May I have a motion to approve Mr. Morrow's items?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that motion.
Mr. Morrow?
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom.
Yes. All right, next on the agenda are the items for the superintendent, Mr. Sears.
Yes, thank you. The first 3 the first one establishes a purchasing agent. It allows myself or a designee to become the purchasing agent for the district. Item 2 designates a representative for federal, state, and special programs and to complete the associated grants for those programs. Item 3 establishes a service fund. This is a resolution to designate a certain amount of money for essential board expenses while performing duties. That's very consistent to a service fund that we've had in previous years, but it's a resolution based on Ohio Revised Code. Item 4 is the board needs to establish a student achievement liaison. And so I'll pause while we have this discussion, establishing a student achievement liaison for 24 calendar year.
I've done it for a number of years, but if someone else would like to, I'll gladly pass the torch along.
Peggy, I think you do a very good job and I think that you really enjoy it. So if you'd like to keep doing it, I am more than in favor of you maintaining. But if you feel like you want someone else, but I think you do an amazing job.
I concur.
So you all are putting some pressure on there. Okay, I will continue it for at least one more year.
Huh? You do an amazing job.
You really do. Thank you. So I agree with those sentiments. I think we all do.
And I appreciate the way you've changed it now that you've got the pictures that you're showing at the meetings too. I think that puts a personal touch to it. I
Mhm.
appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Phillips. Next is the board appointed legislative liaison for the.
I feel all the eyes on me.
Oh, not.
That Don, you do an amazing job at it, and it seems like you really enjoyed digging in and you're very organized about it. So if you'd like to still do it, I'm certainly in favor.
Anyone else?
I concur.
Yeah, I'd be glad to.
No, and as you mentioned with Peggy, John, I think yours they're great. I mean, it really helps to, summarize everything and really stay abreast of what's going on because you've done the legwork for us. I really appreciate the time that you put into that. So, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Skrull.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your diligence on that. There's a lot coming from Columbus that keeps us all very busy. So we appreciate your summaries. Next is a recommendation for a legal form. So we recommend Ennis Britton, the Warren County Prosecutor's Office as District Legal Counsel, Dinsmore and Scholl as Board Counsel, and David DeMuzio as Board of Revision Counsel. So these are consistent legal firms that we've utilized for a number of years. Item 7 is OSBA membership. Provides great service for all of us and board support. Item 8 is recognizing booster groups and parent-teacher organizations. These are all consistent to organizations that we designate as school-sponsored organizations that that support a lot of the great work that happens within our district. So with that, those are the items under my report, and President Belfram.
Any questions for Mr. Sears? All right, may I have a motion to approve the items for the superintendent?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion. Mr. Morrow?
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Belfram,
Yes,
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull.
Yes.
thank you. Right, next on the agenda, I'm going to hold everybody up here and just make one comment that for those who do watch the organizational meeting or tonight's work session meeting, just want everyone to know that some of these things are seamless and very they seem simple for us to do, and I think that's just a reflection of the kind of camaraderie and teamwork we have here in Kings at the administrative level and the board level. My colleagues on the board all work very hard, and we work very hard to be collaborative. We do that with the administration. That's not, a critique or criticism of anyone else, but we work very hard to build that rapport with one another. So it's when we nominate people, we go through some of these things. It's not contentious. It's not difficult to do because we trust each other. We trust the leadership in this room, and I think it works for some very effective meetings and to move forward with the things that we're trying to accomplish here in King. So I just wanted to put that out, and looking forward to another great year working with all of you. So with that, may I have a motion to adjourn the organizational meeting?
I will make that motion.
I will second the motion, Mr. Morrow.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Mr. Belfram,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips.
Yes.
Thank you. Right. Still alive. And with that, I'd like to invite you now to the second meeting of the evening, the Kings Board of Education work session for January. Mr. Morrow, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Phillips,
Here.
Ms. Groff, Ms. Cowan,
Here.
Mr. Skrull,
Here.
Mr. Belfram.
Here. Once again, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Mr. Morrow?
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Belfram.
Yes. Next on the agenda is the master facilities planning under reports and presentations. And this over to Mr. Sears.
Yes, thank you, President Belfram. So each work session and board meeting, the administration is going to attempt to provide an update on where we are in the master planning facility process, answer any questions about the upcoming bond issue, and provide any important updates related to that. So you will hear and see a lot of the same information, and we are doing that intentionally as we know that folks join in and watch these at different points in time, and we want to make sure that we're sharing as much information as possible so people have the information they need to make a decision for themselves. So I'll take a step back briefly and just I know some of this, again, it's going to be repetitive, but it's intentional because we want to make sure that that we have everyone informed. So Dawn, could you please pull up the capacity and utilization attachment. Thank you. So if you recall, last spring, it was approximately a year ago, we started to have discussions around analyzing our enrollment and capacities within our school district. At that point in time, middle of the spring of last year, the Board of Education enabled us to contract with a company called Cropper GIS to do an enrollment capacity and utilization forecast for Kings Local School District. It has been something that we had looked at over time, and we were starting to feel certain things within the buildings as far as number of students. And we've seen growth trends in our district continue to rise. And we needed to identify what does that mean at the building level. So Matthew Cropper came to the Board of Education meetings on 2 different occasions and presented information on our capacities of our buildings and our utilization forecast. With that, Matthew Cropper determined that 5 of our 6 primary buildings are currently, based on the number of students that are currently within our district, 5 of our 6 buildings are considered over capacity. He does mathematical calculations. He spent time walking the buildings, each one of our buildings in the district. He met with our principals to see how space is utilized, and from there was able to formulate an analysis that identified where we are based on the capacity of the building. What this means and where the challenge comes in is our high school currently sits at over 100, and the data is based on last spring, but it's very similar now. As we know, enrollment's always a moving target as kids come and go. But it is over 134% capacity to where, based on what the high school is meant to hold for a functioning high school of our size. This is approximately 400 more students in the high school than what it is functionally ready to operate. The challenge with all of this is that we feel it at the high school, but the issues are throughout the entire district, and that's why through 5 of our 6 buildings. But without any additional growth, and if you are a person who does not believe the district is growing and you do not believe there's additional housing and we just look at the number of students that are in our buildings right now, that are sitting in our seats right now, if you move our 7th graders up to be seniors, you will see that will take our high school to 145% capacity without any additional neighborhoods, without any additional apartment complexes. Just based on the students that are in our seats right now in our district, if you move them forward a few years, that puts our high school at 145% capacity. So without additional growth, we are going to continue to experience challenges, not only at our high school, but throughout the district. This document that you are seeing there, the board approved last month, and this is our capacity and utilization facts. We've identified the impacts of that at the bottom, and the impacts from how we're using school, how we're using space. We've had to spend money on converting spaces just to be functioning at school throughout most of our buildings. We will identify some of these each month that we talk through, but we see this not only in academic spaces are the challenge. We do not have enough classrooms that are causing challenges, but another main issue we have, and Matthew Cropper identified this, is that we are lacking core spaces. Cafeteria space is designed for what the building was originally designed for. So as you add students, the cafeteria space in most of our buildings has not changed. Restroom facilities, gymnasium sizes, the auditorium sizes, small group rooms. So the core academic spaces have not changed as we have added more students throughout the district. So these are challenges that we have that we'll continue to navigate, and it does impact how we have school each day. So with that, after this utilization and capacity study was completed, we've presented this a number of times throughout the district. We've shared this throughout the district. And from there was interest and from the Board of Education, and they enacted an ability to do and gave us the authority to complete a master planning process. So earlier this fall, we contracted with SHP to facilitate a master planning process throughout the district. This master planning process was community driven, community engaged, and community organized. We established a community advisory team early on of a wide range of folks throughout the district, representing lots of different areas, from elected officials to empty nesters to community members to parents to teachers to administrators to a lot of different business leaders, et cetera. They met a number of times. We held community forums, but the ideas that were generated through the master planning process were all generated through the community advisory team. It was not an administrative driven plan. They showed up at the first meeting of the year, the first meeting that they had, with a blank slate, and were able to design, how do we solve the problem of the enrollment capacities that we have in our district? Through community forums, community surveys, which thousands of people completed, participated in, and communicated. And the data supported the entire way. The data supported an option for a new high school. So with that, the community advisory team earlier in November came to this Board of Education and presented an option for that the community advisory team supported, that also was supported through the data through the last community forum, and that was a new high school solution. So what was presented, the plan that was presented, was a new high school solution. What that does is it builds a new high school somewhere on the property that is currently where the Kings High School is, taking advantage of the newly acquired property from Kings Island that we purchased last year. It gives us flexibility in determining the best space for that. But it enables us to build a new 9 to 12 building. It transitions the grades 6 through 8 to the current high school. It includes an addition at Columbia for additional classrooms. It converts Columbia to a 4-5 building instead of a 5-6. So the 6th grade would join 7th and 8th at the current high school. Columbia would be 4-5. And in order to reduce the capacities of our K-3 buildings, because the data demonstrates that they are over capacity, by pulling 4th grade out, you're removing a grade level, and we drop the capacities of each building to make them more functional based on the number of students. So JF Burns, Kings Mills Elementary, and South Lebanon become K-3 buildings with our preschool and maintained at this space. So with that, the community advisor team recommended to the board a master plan. The board approved the master plan. And we have since placed a ballot issue on the ballot for March 19th. And so I will turn this over to Mr. Morrow. He will outline some of the financial information, and then I'll close this up on this.
So as Mr. Sears said, the Board of Education approved the master plan and approved moving forward in the process. And the next step in the process before we can do any work is asking the community, do you want to support a bond issue for $142 million? So bond issue is a word we're going to toss around a lot over the next few months. But it's really like a person's mortgage. The school district, if the community approves, would get $142 million to pay for this project, very similar to how you get money from a bank to buy a house. And then we'll make payments annually the same way a community member makes payments monthly on their house. So the county auditor taxes the property of all the community, collects that money every year, and then we turn around and send it out to pay our bill the same way the community pays their mortgage. So one of the pieces of this is, what's it going to take to make our monthly or our annual payments? So the county auditor, and Don, if you could scroll down a little bit, the county auditor certified that for the district to pay $142 million and to pay that mortgage payment, for lack of a different term, every year, he needs to tax the community at 5.971 mils. So that's why the ballot says 5.971. But we've worked with our all-star finance team, financial advisor team. How can we lessen the impact on our community but still achieve the goal of alleviating the overcapacity and making our annual payments on our $142 million if the community approves. So really the logistics aren't that difficult. We have older projects currently being paid on, primarily KME and SLE. So we're going to be paying off those projects, and we're going to be phasing in payments for the new projects. So we're really taking advantage of the fact that we're paying off old projects to limit the tax increase from the new. So the ballot says 5.971 mils, but the real estimated impact is only 3.5, which to the average homeowner in Kings is $351 per year or $29 per month.
So this ballot language is it is set for the March primary, March 19th, for the community to evaluate and provide input on this plan. So we'll continue to provide the board updates. Are there any questions at this point about anything that I presented or Mr. Morrow shared as well?
I did have one question. So in the past, when it's been brought up about changing the structure of the elementary buildings and moving any of the grades, there's been some feedback. I honestly haven't received any about moving fourth grade, so I was just curious if anyone else has gotten much feedback about changing that structure. Like maybe going from K to 4 to K to 3.
No, actually, I haven't either.
Yeah, I really haven't.
No, the only comments I've received is that people are very happy to keep the community schools, the 3 elementary buildings.
Same.
I did have one question. So kind of along those lines with keeping the community schools, will there be any shifting of the district between the school buildings, or will those remain the same as they are now?
As far as which students are assigned to which building?
Exactly.
Okay. So that's something currently we're planning on maintaining, but as with anything, we'll always evaluate the best way to do that. So there's not any plans right now to redistrict. I think I'll just use that word because that's what you're referring to, Mr. Skrull.
Yeah, I'm not talking a full redistrict, just if
Yeah.
there's any adjustment.
Yeah, I think that's something as we get down the line. So, and this will help understand and answer your question, but I wanted to add one more piece. So just to make it clear, if this is approved in March, if the community supports in March, we're looking at potentially a year-ish or more of design and permitting. From there, we would be looking at potentially 24 to 30 months of construction. So I say that because in new high school, if it's approved, we're looking at potentially 3 years down the road at the earliest before we would move into that space. During that time, we would continue to evaluate what that looks like as far as enrollment growth, number of students in each buildings, what those neighborhood elementaries look like. And if there are adjustments needed, we would look at that point in time, but we would have 3 years before this plan goes in place to evaluate that. Right now, there's no plans for that because the growth that we're anticipating additional neighborhoods and growth in, for example, KME's jurisdiction that may impact that. But we'll always evaluate that as we would anywhere, but there's not any specific plans right now to redistrict. Anything you want to add, Mr. Lucky, to that? Are you comfortable with that?
So along the lines of the financial information, there's one more piece that we've been working on. We've touched on it with the board a couple times, but we wanted to start to dig in a little bit deeper and have a discussion about work that we've been doing. Yep, that's it. If you could pull that up. So the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission, the district's worked with them in the past, and we've had conversations with them about if this bond issue does pass and we do move forward with facility projects, how can the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission have a role? we'll be referring to them as the OFCC throughout the next couple slides. And I'll just pause it with, this is an introduction to more conversations that we're going to have with the board. So next week, we've asked Charlie Janigan with SHP to come and dig a little bit deeper into the OFCC and OFCC projects. So I'm just kind of laying the foundation for a little more in-depth presentation from SHP, but we wanted to make sure the board started to get their feet wet with this idea and had plenty of opportunity to formulate any questions that if we can't answer tonight or you don't have tonight, then we can make sure we address them next week when SHP is here. They work in this world and with this state agency on many projects, so they really have expertise. So the OFCC is a state agency that works with public school districts to basically help fund projects, help fund facility projects, new construction or renovation. We are only eligible at this time for the Expedited Local Partnership Program. We'll call that ELP. So OFCC has many projects, and working with them, we currently only qualify for this one. We're not on the list to receive OFCC money at this point in time, but we can take advantage of the ELP program in order to capture some of our current project. As far as if the community is going to make an investment in the schools, we want to be able or have the option to capture some of that for future credit. So the ELP process, kind of first thought is we haven't even passed the bond issue. We're not even in the middle of a project. Why would we want to start working with the OFCC right now? This program for Kings is 6 to 8 months. So if we start working on this now and the board elects to kind of get the ball rolling, we're not going to have anything formal done with the OFCC for 6 to 8 months. And as you all know, and we've talked about, there's facility needs now. So we don't want a potentially working with the OFCC to delay any facilities work that could get going. So we plan to ask the board for approval to participate and work with the OFCC on the ELP process because it is a 6 to 8 month process, and we're under no obligation. If the board elects to, yes, we want administration to start working with the OFCC. If 6 months later the board says we don't like the plan, we don't agree with what the OFCC's findings are, we don't agree with what they think is a good plan for Kings, then we just walk away. And the only loss that we have is some time that's put into it. But we'll get to the next slide, Dawn. But we don't want to miss out on an opportunity to get a return on the community's investment. So a high school is the biggest and most expensive project, houses the most kids and the biggest kids that need the most space and the most facilities. So if we're going to work with the OFCC on a project, it makes a lot of sense to work with them on the biggest project, because 26% of the biggest project is more than 26% of a smaller project. So potentially, if we work with the OFCC right now, we can lock in some of those community dollars that are being spent potentially on the new project for use in the future, to fund a project 10 years from now that we don't know that we need yet, for example. Or if we're good and we don't need any more projects, then we can take the OFCC money and pay off debt that is outstanding on our current project. So there's a lot of options by us kind of starting this process now.
So if you pay on current debt, then that would decrease the amount that the community would be paying in
That is correct. If it comes to be when it is King's turn, you hit the nail on the head. We don't have any facility needs. So the OFCC can write us a check, pay down debt, and that makes the burden on taxpayers less. Mhm.
So how is that 26% determined? Is it a set amount or does it change year over year?
So the 26% is determined based on a state calculation of economic disadvantaged and also valuation per pupil. So they rank all the schools based on valuation per pupil, and then they say, basically, we think we should pay 26% of your project. Another school might be 80% of their project. So they recalculate that every year. We had been trending up slightly the last decade or so, up to 27%. And the most recent numbers have us going down 1%. So if that trend continued in the future, then they would be paying less than they are right now. And if we do decide to move forward with OFCC, we'd lock in at that 26% right now. Great.
And for the district's term, so you said 10 years, so do you estimate that would be in 10 years would be our term?
Can't say. They can't say to us.
Said 10 years, I don't know if that was your estimate.
Just threw that out there. No.
They're very non-committal on any
That-
dates that,
yes.
so we know we're in line, and it just depends how quickly other districts ahead of us go. It could be a short time, it could be a long time. That's about as specific as they get.
So there's a lot of variables. Like, for example, urban districts are ahead of most schools on the list. So if one of the big urban schools has a massive project, that could take all of the money for that year just for one project, and all the other schools are still waiting in line. But they did tell us that we are eligible for this ELP program because they believe we're more than 2 years out from getting any money. You can apply and get approved for ELP if they expect that your number is going to be called in 2 years. So they pretty much committed that we're not getting anything from them in 2 years, but we can take part in this.
So I have a couple questions. So when you get credited for a future project, like presuming we didn't use it to pay down debt and we wanted to use it for some future facilities planning, does that particular project have to fall under OFCC standards with respect to square footage, all that, as opposed to what we're doing, what we're looking into now?
I'll let Mr. Janigan next week kind of get into the architecture and the
Okay.
nitty gritty of what plans look like and what parameters districts have to fall under. So we'll make note and make sure that he addresses that next week.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be curious to see as well, like, does he have, some examples of what that looks like, completed projects that he and his colleagues could bring, we could look at as well as part of that.
Absolutely. And that's a great question, because if any money that's spent would have to follow OFCC guidelines to be able to get credit for it. So great question to what does an OFCC project look like?
Right. Yeah.
The eligible expenses as you have in power.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
I think what's important from this, just one final note, before we move on is, at the board's direction, one of the things that we've been tasked with and been put on us is, how do we accomplish the capacity constraints that we have currently in our district, doing it in a way that's going to lessen the burden on taxpayers. And so that lessen the ask or the impact. And so that's a lot of the work that we've been doing behind the scenes as the community advisory team, and the community's been providing input on a plan. we've been analyzing that plan and then determining the best way to move forward. And so I think it lessening the impact on our district has been good. Solving the problem is what we're working on. But really, again, this is another way that it's an opportunity for us that we need to take advantage of the 26% credit, especially when you're asking for a project the size of 142 million, that not all 142 million is going to be eligible, but a very high proportion of that. And Mr. Janigan next week can give some more details on that. But we need to take advantage of that because we owe it to the community to do that. So the board's been very clear to look for ways to reduce that long-term burden for taxpayers. And so when we look at the plan, this solves the problem in the district, but it also I think there's a lot of behind the scenes work being done to try to lessen the burden and lessen the ask.
Any further questions from Mr. Sears, Mr. Morrow? All right. Thank you for that, gentlemen. Appreciate the continued updates there. Next on the agenda are the discussion items for the treasurer. Mr. Morrow, back to you, sir.
Thank you. 1, 2, and 3 are just the typical minutes. I asked the board, take a look at those and let me know if you see anything that needs modified prior to myself asking for approval at the regular meeting. Financial items, you'll see the typical monthly financials. Kind of the main document is financials 12.23. You'll see that we're running almost exactly as expected, which is good that there hasn't been any major surprises. If there's any questions about that, I'm more than happy to answer them now or at the regular meeting next week. And then public records log. Then you'll see the public records log. We're pretty caught up. I received a couple requests in the past week or so. Try to get those taken care of timely as we always do. Yeah, I'm in pretty good shape there.
Any further questions for Mr. Morrow? No? All right. Moving on, next on the agenda are the discussion items for the superintendent, Mr. Sears.
Yes, thank you. The number of overnight trips to approve, just to a lot of these are similar to what we've done in the past. The first one is Kings High School Cheer, February 8th to the 13th of this year, going to Orlando for nationals. Next one is Kings High School Swim. Mr. Meisner always has foresight here to apply for overnight at the state meet in Canton. He's expecting a big return on that. February 22nd to 24th for our swim team to participate in the state meet. Kings High School Women's Lacrosse, March 2nd and 3rd in Indianapolis, enables them to play some out-of-state teams in some preseason action. The Kings Firecrackers, February 16th to February 18th, will be participating at and performing at Belmont University outside of Nashville. It's a great trip. And then lastly, our former national champion dance team will be attending UDA Nationals once again at the end of this month, January 31st through February 5th in Orlando to participate in nationals.
Any questions for Mr. Sears? And I'd be remiss to remind all of our wonderful organizations that, you never know. Board may be more than happy to travel to these events, particularly the warm weather locations.
Good, good.
Next on the agenda are the assistant superintendent items regarding HR and business. I'll turn it over to Mr. Spinner and Mr. Lucky.
Thank you, President Belfram, Kings Board of Education. Just one item on our agenda this evening having to do with personnel. rather thin item this evening, but it deals with resignations, new staff, miscellaneous items, supplementals and stipends. A majority of those are in support of and we thank this for the support of our Columbia Intermediate School PTO, providing some unique and additional opportunities to our students after school, and then temporary employment. Happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Not questions, but comment. These are some pretty interesting clubs that these kids are getting the opportunity to get into. It's, I think that'll be good for them.
Agree. Any further questions for, actually, what I'd like to do before we move on, because this is HR and business, is Mr. Lucky, can we please give you a minute to take a victory lap, sir? Because the bridge
Yes.
and the roundabout are complete. Appreciate all of your updates over the past 12 months. Like, I know I ask you lots of questions, but we really do appreciate that. Thank you to the municipalities. That's all complete. If you haven't been by, it looks really good. But tell the community, appreciate all of your patience, particularly those of you who live, and that is really a vital artery for you to get home, and you've had to take a detour for quite some time. We appreciate your patience. And I'll be on the lookout for any more projects, Mr. Lucky, that I can continue to get my intel from you, sir.
I appreciate the segue. We do have a project getting ready to start at Great Wolf Lodge around to all the way north on Columbia, around the corner of the high school to Oak Street. I believe they're going to be replacing a 24-inch water main. So I think we talked in meetings before, if it's not the bridge, it's going to be the next thing. This is the next thing. They started clearing this week. And that project is slated to complete in June. So those of you out there listening, those of you in the room, be prepared. This might be worse than the bridge from what it does to us as a day-to-day business. They do a great job of communicating with us and letting us know what's going on. We've had a pre-construction meeting, but it's a pretty healthy project that's going on really across our whole front yard. So if you think about your house and what that would do to you and the effects of accessibility and all the things, but we will have accessibility to all of our in and out points at pickup, drop off, all the most important times. But it's going to create some fun there at times during the day. So I look forward to giving updates on the project until it will be done. Hopefully it's done on time, June 1, but be prepared for this one. This one's going to be
Mr. Lucky,
Yes, ma'am.
I was on 48 coming up Mason Morrow Millgrove, and I sat in traffic for a long time. What's going on there?
For the sake of lots of poor weather, bus stops, it's probably not helping our cause, but we're working on entry to the high school and making sure that's as safe as it can be. So that's probably part of it. The other parts, the bridge is open, and now we're trying to figure out that part of it. So I wish I could fix traffic, Phillips. I don't have any update on that yet, but
Okay.
continuing that process, everyone's kind of feeling their way out. The hospital opens this week, so be prepared for that. So it's a wonderful place to live, and everybody wants to be here, and all the things want to be here to support us. So we're gonna deal with that and all the growth for the foreseeable future. So we love it here.
Yeah.
Probably the best thing to say, but we just keep growing and all the things that go with it. So let's embrace it and make the best of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and to reiterate, the hospital does open this week. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Sears, you can correct me. Mr. Lice and Mr. Dunn sent out communications to the junior high and the high school before the holiday break about the expectations with pickup and drop off. And so with what Mr. Lucky just talked about with the hospital opening up, that's going to be vitally important that we pick up and drop off in the right places. And if
Mhm.
we have overflow in the line, that you line up accordingly, I think, towards the castle so that you're out of the flow of traffic. So I don't know. Did I get that right?
Yeah, they've been sending, they recently this week, they've been updating their traffic flow pattern. They've communicated that with kids. It's been on social media. There's maps I know on X, Twitter, whatever. But they've been communicating. They've been working at it. So
Perfect. Right. Any further questions for Mr. Spinner or Mr. Lucky in particular on any projects you've seen throughout the district? All right. Next on the agenda are the discussion items for the assistant superintendent regarding our educational programs. I will hand it over to Mrs. Martin and Mr. Freeman.
So Matt and I've been talking about the high school new classes, new updates past couple of months. This is that time of the year where we bring the course catalog to you and just kind of highlight a few things. I don't want to steal Matt's thunder, but I do want to tell you, I think this is exciting. The high school has decided they're sharing a PDF with us tonight of everything, but they're actually going to create on the website links. So parents don't have to scroll through the whole thing. The kids don't have to scroll through. So excited to see that when it gets out before scheduling time. So you're seeing the whole thing, but then we'll probably pull it up at some point and show you the actual website too. I'm not gonna say anything more, Matt. I'll let you, because I know there's more. So you go ahead.
That's quite all right. Yeah, it is. It is the time of year when we bring this to you. So this document is a draft, but we're just going to highlight the changes today or updates that the high school is asking for the board to approve. All great opportunities and experiences for our students, we believe. So in the document, what I plan to do, and Dana, jump in just as because I know we've all been involved in these conversations. We're just going to highlight these things that are new to the document. So that's kind of our goal, if that's okay with you. So the first thing that we want to talk about is the addition of honors weight to some of our elective courses that do not yet have those. So we've had kind of over the years some options for honors weight to elective classes that we already have. For example, band, vocal music classes, our architecture electives all have honors options. Foreign language, world language rather, I'm sorry, has honors options, but not consistently, not all of our courses do. So the high school building leadership team has been in conversation with staff there. And so they would like to extend that honors weight option to all elective courses beginning next school year. So that would provide an opportunity for students, say in business, in all of our business courses, and we have a whole business program. We do not have honors courses currently right now or advanced placement currently options for those courses. So sometimes students are discouraged from taking courses that they might be interested in because they don't have an option for some additional weight to those courses. So that's kind of some of the thinking, I think, behind that. It does, again, provide some teachers will have a select, not as students will self-identify rather to do the honors portions of courses, which will be outlined by each teacher at the beginning of the school year. So that's something new in that area. Any questions on that?
That's
Right.
great.
The next item on the list there is really a reinstatement of personal finance. So Kings High School used to offer a personal finance class. In fact, it used to be a graduation requirement many, many years ago, kind of went away. Then the state legislature kind of decided that needed to be, financial literacy needed to be a part of every high school program. And so it is now a new graduation requirement that's being phased in. So all of our students in the class of 2026, so it's our current sophomores and beyond, then will be required to have half a credit in personal finance. And so we are reinstating that class beginning next year. We've waited for this. We've known that this requirement is coming. And we've talked about it in meetings from time to time as part of new legislation. But we've intentionally waited because in the past, personal finance, when it was a requirement, was an option for students 9 through 12. It was a very popular option for students in ninth grade and even as a summer school option before they even entered high school. And the fact of the matter is, students are not developmentally in the right frame of mind necessarily to understand budgets, credit, student loans even, and other portions of financial literacy that just as they're older and they have an opportunity to have a job and work and have their own money. So we purposely waited. So this will be an option for students as juniors and seniors. So that's why now we'll be offering it for the first time next year. We will offer it as a summer school option. So we do currently offer health for original credit as an online course in summer school. We will roll out personal finance as a summer school option, but it will also be taught at the high school as well for rising. Yes, only juniors and seniors for that. And that will all be laid out as students sign up if they choose to for that class. Students also can take College Credit Plus options. That's actually a class that's offered at Sinclair and at other university partners. And so students can also choose to take it there if they want. But that's personal finance and our response to that legislation passed by our state legislature. The next class we're real excited about, this is College 101. So this is a class that's going to be offered actually for second semester juniors and then first semester seniors. And it's a half a credit course that students will earn. And it really, as a junior, the curriculum really helps students to get into the whole idea of what schools are good fits for me. How much does it cost? How do I start the application process? You know, the application process with the Common App for college admissions opens in the summer. So how can students begin to kind of learn about that process and be prepared so that in the summer in August, when the Common App opens and then they start their senior year, you know, they're really more prepared for that whole process. So kind of more preparation, second semester junior year, then first semester senior year, College 101 would be, let's dig into that college app. Let's dig into other university applications that might be separate from the Common App to really help them put their best foot forward and really better understand requirements to kind of have a competitive edge and admission to schools that they're interested in. So we're excited about that. Yeah, we're excited about that. All of them, but that's definitely something new that we think will be of benefit to students and their families. For a number of years, we have offered through our partnership with Warren County Career Center, the biomedical science program. So several years ago, we first rolled out only the principles of biomedical science. And then just as that program has grown in popularity with our students, we have added courses in that sequence. So there are 4 courses into that sequence. A number of years ago, when we brought Project Lead the Way in, we approved the program, which is all 4 courses. But just each time we've added a course, we've always highlighted that in our conversation with you. And so we're doing that again. So the final course is a biomedical innovations course, which is really a capstone course where students will be doing research around something that they're interested in and learning more about in the biomedical health field. And then they'll complete a research project and presentation there. So it's a pretty nice kind of end to that series of courses. And so we're excited. You know, it's been a while since we've added a course. It's a little bit of a challenge to be perfectly honest, because we have one biomedical science teacher. Katie Endress is that teacher right now. And so that's quite a bit of work, you know, for one person, but she's ready for it and excited to offer the biomedical innovations class for students really to kind of complete that program. And then we've got AP pre-calculus. So we, for years, have offered an honors pre-calculus class as kind of the precursor to our advanced placement calculus options. So we do offer AP Calculus AB and BC options for students. And so the College Board actually last year rolled out AP Pre-Calculus. And so we started to investigate that. And actually this it was probably spring of last year. The department chair and Julia McCavitt, Lynn Brandt was involved with that, came and had a conversation with us and like, hey, can we investigate this course? We think that this College Board curriculum would really be a better preparation for the advanced placement calculus series that we already offer. So this year we've been kind of going through that investigative process. Julia McCavitt will be the teacher for that class last year and has been kind of dabbling in that curriculum right now to test out some things and has done actually quite a bit of work. So we would like to offer the AP Pre-Calc course next year, and then we would eliminate our current honors pre-calc class. So that would kind of replace that. We have Yoga 2. Yoga 2 is an opportunity really for students to continue taking a yoga class, which has become very popular. A number of years ago, we started offering that, and it has just exploded. Marianne Boehner is kind of the developer of that class. She's one of our physical education teachers at the high school and just really has a passion for this particular area. Has done quite a bit of certifications, developed the yoga class, and it is very popular. It is a good option for students to take for their PE credit. So their PE credit is only a quarter credit for graduation requirements. Students are required to have a half a credit of PE. And so this allows students who really like that. And, you know, I have done yoga before. I don't know if you have. We've offered it to our staff for professional learning opportunities, just as like self-care kind of options. And it's popular. It's good. It's accessible. And this is one of those things that we can expose students to that they can do lifelong. You know, so that they have that opportunity with Mrs. Boehner. They can get free online classes or, you know, participate in obviously different clubs and things. So anyway, Yoga 2 allows students to continue and to earn an additional 0.5 credit so that they can complete their PE graduation requirement. So we're excited to offer that. And then the last piece is you're well aware that we have a number of students that participate in College Credit Plus. Our only course that we offer at our high school for college credit is Engineering 1 and 2. Those options have been available a number of years at Kings High School. Most of our students take online courses for CCP. So we've been kind of having conversation around what are some options that we might be able to add here. There are requirements of instructors to become adjuncts at the universities that will offer the class. And so we've had some teachers go through that process. And so we have kind of gone through what are options of classes that students tend to take outside math-wise. And so we settled on business calculus as an upper level math course that would be really a good option for students that are going to plan to study business in some kind of post-secondary program. Business calculus, if you major in business, is a requirement and at most universities that you take it. So it really gives students an opportunity to earn dual credit with a teacher that they're familiar with here from Kings. We're excited to offer that. This business calculus course will be offered through Sinclair. Mouthful, but that was a lot of the courses. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll add before there's questions, I'll add that, you know, a couple of years ago, we started to identify needs for future courses and a process for that. As we've solidified our Power Five future skills that we've, as part of our strategic initiatives, in order for a course to make it to this point and get into the course guide for students to actually select, it has to meet some criteria that it's going to enable our students to succeed in some level of one of the Power Five future skills: communication, collaboration, problem solving, critical thinking, or career readiness. With a number of these, that's the framework that our administrators are working under. How does this give our students another skill? Does it give it another experience, or prepare them for life beyond the walls of our school district? And so what you're seeing as a result of that, these are courses that are going to give our kids advantages or prepare them with that. So we're excited to see some of these things come to fruition. College 101, we have a number of students that are going into that world. We have a high percentage of students that go 2-year, 4-year. This gives them an opportunity to be more prepared through the Common App process, which we've heard significant feedback from parents and students that it's a challenge. And if you've had a student go to college, you know the Common App it's a lot. We feel if we're going to do our due diligence and give our kids that competitive advantage, we can do things to prepare them better, but also give them opportunities to research what they want to do and where they want to go so that they'll stay there, or they'll make a more informed decision before they actually enter into that university. So we're excited about some of these opportunities, as we think it's going to give our students a significant advantage compared to their peers, and also relieve some of that pressure from home to do things that I think we're equipped to. So thank you, Mr. Freeman, Mrs. Martin, thank you.
Are there any questions on the high school document?
I have one question. So you've highlighted all these new courses. Are there any courses that are being taken out of the catalog?
Honors pre-calc. I should say this, that's a great question. So our schedule at the high school is really student driven. So I'm thinking of English, for example, off the top of my head. We have a number of English electives. Students obviously they're required to earn 4 credits over the course of high school. In English, they take English 9, English 10, English 11, and then senior English is really, we don't have an English 12, but we have a number of options for students to take. So women's literature is a class that over the last couple of years has really seen a resurgence in popularity, and it's been offered in the schedule. If we don't have enough students that offer that class, then we can't run it.
Sure.
So it's kind of that situation.
I'll answer your question a little differently because I want to allude to this as well, but the courses that are being added, we are not anticipating additional staffing as a result of that. So for the board's perspective on there, these are courses that we can add within the current high school schedule or with doing things differently. So we're not anticipating at this point now enrollment or course options in the selections that students could want to take may warrant us to come back to the board at some point, but based on what we've initially set up, we're not anticipating additional staffing needs for that.
The next document that we have attached for you to look at is something brand new. And we've talked quite a bit, at our last board meeting. Carrie Snyder was here, and she's our internship teacher, and she did a great presentation on that program and kind of what we can expect moving into next school year. And so this is kind of a next step document that provides more information for students as they look at what is available. So this is a document that was developed by Lead Training. and our partnership with Riley O'Grady and folks that she works with. And so this document really kind of outlines all of the different career-related experiences that will be afforded to Kings High School students next school year. So one of the things that the high school's been talking about, and it's kind of outlined at the start of this document, are the 4 E's. And so those 4 E's are really a goal for students to, as they're going through their 4 years of high school, and even before they get into high school, what are they interested in doing after they leave us? And so how can we better prepare students if they're interested in those 4 E's would be enrollment in some kind of post-secondary 2 or 4 year program, employment, so students that might go straight into the workforce, enlistment for students who are interested in taking a military option and serving our country there, and then entrepreneurship. So students that really are interested in, look at all of how the world has changed, really, even since 2020, and the number of startups and business ideas that can be afforded to our students today through different ideas and cooperatives that help to foster and facilitate those ideas. So as a high school, as a district, and then as a high school specifically, how can we help guide students to better select what they'd like to do? And how can our program support students that are interested in these areas? So lead training, Riley in particular, we've kind of tasked her with being our business partnership advocate, and she has just gone out into our community, and this document outlines 88 separate companies that she has made contact with that have made a commitment to work with our students at some level. It could be through an externship experience, like a job shadow, a 1-day event. It could be they'll come and speak to groups of students, or they'll invite students in to hear, what their company is like or what their business does. Or it could be an internship experience where students come, as we heard last month, to get more experience on a regular basis in a particular career field. So lots of opportunities coming for students next school year. Things are going to kind of work differently. Our goal is to have 50 students participate this year. In first semester, we had 11. And so we're probably around that same number right now, starting the second semester. So we're looking to grow that. And to grow that, we need to have a clear process. And so that's outlined in this document. Next week for juniors, because this is for internships, are for seniors right now. So next week, the folks from Lead Training and Ms. Snyder are doing a presentation to our juniors to kind of outline what those experiences are and how they can choose to participate in those. So there's a Google form. There'll be a whole process that students will complete to generate a list of what they're interested in. And then there'll be a matching process through an interview with particular businesses. So that will be happening. And so it starts next week with kind of introductions, and we'll wrap up the end of March, beginning of April, where students will kind of have their placements, will have gone through the process, developed their resume, had their interview with the companies, and be ready for their placements, potentially in the summer or in the fall to begin.
About this document, and this is going to go with hopefully the website with all of this, is it puts all of the career experiences at the high school in one place. And we've not really had that. So you can go and see everything. It also outlines all the processes for the different programs. So I'm very excited about this. We just got this yesterday, but this really puts it together with all the work that career group has done, because that's a large group at the high school and many different people have worked on it. So thanks to you, Matt, because I know you guys have all worked hard to get this together.
It does include our current offerings with Employability 1 and 2. So that's a way for students to kind of begin to practice those soft skills and kind of look at some options. It also includes Career Quest, which we've had for a number of years. Okay. Also in collaboration with LEAD, where students might not know exactly what they want to do, but still need some assistance and exposure to different companies. So that started already, for example, for this year. So it starts in November, wraps up in May for students. So all that's outlined here and will be shared with students as options.
We talked about this as in previous meetings about like spokes on a wheel. And if you look at the second page, you can kind of see what that's what we mean by that. I'll just say this is just scratching the surface, and it's incredible work to provide opportunities based on what we had this year and to grow it to this point. But this is exactly what when we look at reimagining the high school experience, preparing our kids for life beyond the walls of our school district, this is what we're talking about. The work here is very well done, and it's incredible opportunities for our kids to build resumes, gain skills, gain experience, and determine what they do or don't want to do in the future. So pretty excited about this work and looking forward to seeing it continue to grow.
Any questions for Mrs. Martin, Mr. Sears, or Mr. Freeman, and Mr. Sears? Thank you guys both. This is amazing.
Makes
Lot-
me almost want to go back to high school.
Yeah, there's a lot of paid summer internships. I was looking through it. I didn't even know Gorilla Glue was in Sharonville. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, so yeah, fascinating.
They've been sticking around a while.
Yeah, nice. Well done, Miss Girl. Sorry. Next on the agenda are the items presented by the board. Did we have anything for this evening?
I wanted to bring up our scholarship that we've talked about a few different times for the board. I know the last time we somewhat semi gave Mike some ideas, but I think, Mike, if you want to go through them, I scribbled some down just so we can get consensus, because I know scholarship time at the high school will be fast approaching.
Sure. So after the discussion by the board, the last meeting, I had sent a follow-up email with kind of some ideas from scholarships that I've seen in the past and got some follow-up from the board. A couple items that the board was interested in exploring were students that have had special circumstances that not necessarily in any one thing, but just something that they could talk about to the board where they've had adversity that they've had to kind of fight through to get to where they are and to be in a position to go to continue in college. GPA requirements were another item that got brought up. And then a couple of the items that were kind of outstanding were how the students would be selected, meaning if the high school counselors were going to narrow down the scholarship applicants and then provide the board with 3 to 5 that they believe is the highest meet the qualifications the best. So that way the board isn't getting 60 to 70 or however many applicants. That was something that we needed some clarification on to be able to put together a draft to send to the board.
Yeah, to that last point, I definitely think we should involve the counselors. I think they be able to have more of a critical eye to kind of go through some of that. So I definitely think that would be good.
How many do you think we should have them narrow it to? 3 to 5, 3 to 10, 5 to 10?
I'd say 3 to 5 would be
Yeah.
would be a good size.
Yeah, I'd say 3 to 5 as well. Similar to what we do commencement with some of the awards we hand out. I think we do like 3 to 5. So I think that will work.
What do you think, Deb?
I think 3 to 5 would work.
Okay. Any other comments, thoughts? I can get a draft to the board the next couple days for you to look over and see if it's what you were thinking and kind of what you would want to do on an annual basis. And as a reminder, the amount that was discussed was $200 a board member for $1,000 in total. That would be split 500 for two separate scholarships.
And Janelle is saying that she'd like to consider 10 candidates.
Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with if we do more.
Mhm.
That's
So we're saying 5 to 10 or have 10,
yeah, let's do 5 to 10. How's that sound?
well,
I say cap it at 10, no more
Cap,
than.
yeah, cap it at 10.
Yep.
Minimum of 5. So
It sounds good.
okay, perfect.
Thank you, Mrs. Groff.
Another thought that I see here was leadership potentially being something that the board would see as fitting, considering it's coming from the Board of Education who's leading an entire district. Don't know if the board has any thoughts on that.
I think having something on leadership would be important.
Agree.
We'll get that out in the next couple days.
Thank you, Mr. Monk.
Mhm.
We have any other board items? Right, so with that, next on the agenda, could you highlight executive session for me, Dawn? But my laptop just died. So we will be, oh, is that Mrs. Groff?
Yeah.
She
Sorry.
said leadership or how Kings has formed them.
Oh, okay. So she's on
The
board.
influence of Kings.
Gotcha. Thank you, Mrs. Groff. Next on the agenda is the executive session. We'll enter into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official. And once I have that motion, we enter into executive session. Once we conclude, we will adjourn the meeting for this evening. So may I have a motion to enter into executive session?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Mr. Morrow?
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips.
Yes.
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom.
Yes. And again, we will adjourn the meeting upon the conclusion of executive session. So have a good evening, everyone.